Hey guys, welcome back to True Crime with Shannon. This is where I cover missing persons, unsolved crimes, crime news, and more. Today I'm going to be covering a case I just heard about out of Iowa. But before we get into that, I always like to feature a missing person on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about missing person Issabelle, Izzy Dawn Dieker. She is missing from Wichita, Kansas. She's 5'4", weighs 133 pounds, brown hair, it says dyed black and blonde, hazel eyes. She's been missing since September 7th and she is 15 years old. Issabelle Izzy Dawn Dieker is missing endangered runaway who went missing from Wichita, Kansas on September 7th, 2022. Izzy is 15 years old. She is 5'4" tall and weighs 133 pounds. She has brown hair that was last known to be dyed half black and half blonde, and hazel eyes. If you have any information regarding Izzy's disappearance or you know of her whereabouts, please call the Wichita, Kansas Police Department at 316-660-9452 or 316-680-9456, or you can call the KBI at 765-296-4017. And they also do list the case number below. And if you know anything about Izzy missing out of Kansas, please do contact the authorities. So, I saw this article today about this case. I had not seen this case recently, and when I saw it, I knew I had to discuss it. And I'm really curious about everyone's thoughts on it because this one really disturbs me, you guys. So this one's about an Iowa teen who killed her sexual assailant. She was ordered to pay now $150,000. Now, this seems very, just the headline itself is drives me to wonder what the heck is going on here. Apparently there's a little more than meets the eye going on here, but definitely the state of Iowa has got not a lot of protections for assault victims, it doesn't seem. A teenage human trafficking victim who was initially charged with first-degree M after she stabbed her accused heiress to death was sentenced Tuesday in an Iowa court to 5 years of closely supervised probation in order to pay $150,000 restitution to the man's family. Now, if that first paragraph doesn't get you going crazy and get you a bit annoyed, I don't know what will, because I read that first paragraph and I am outraged. But let's continue on and get more of the story here. Piper Lewis, 17, was sentenced Tuesday after she pleaded last year to involuntary manslaughter and willful injury into the June 2020 killing of 37-year-old Zachary Brooks of Des Moines. Both charges were punishable by up to 10 years in prison. Polk County District Judge David M. Porter on Tuesday deferred those prison sentences, meaning that if Lewis violates any portion of her probation, she could be sent to prison to serve that 20-year term. As for being required to pay the estate of her attacker, quote, "This court is presented with no other option," end quote. What? Okay, Porter said, noting the restitution is mandatory under Iowa law that has been upheld by the Iowa Supreme Court. What the heck, you guys? So, she has been sexually attacked, okay? She's been sexually assaulted, and according to her, she's been trafficked, okay? And now, not only is thankfully she's only getting probation, beyond that, she did admit that she did unalive this man, but she has to pay his family $150,000? That just sounds like, wow. Are we in the United States anymore? I had no idea any state did not cover this kind of thing for victims. Lewis was 15 when she stabbed Brooks more than 30 times in a Des Moines apartment. Officials have said Lewis was a runaway who was seeking to escape an abusive life with her adopted mother, and she was sleeping in the hallways of the Des Moines apartment building when a 28-year-old man took her in before forcibly trafficking her to other men for sex. So they acted, I guess, like they were going to help her out, but they started trafficking her and assaulting her. Lewis said that one of those men was Brooks and that he had art her multiple times in the weeks before his death. She recounted being forced at knife point by the 28-year-old man to go with Brooks to his apartment for sex. She told officials that after Brooks had art her yet again, she grabbed a knife from the bedside table and stabbed Brooks in a fit of rage. Police and prosecutors have not disputed that Lewis was sexually assaulted and trafficked. Okay, so they're saying it. They agree. She was assaulted and trafficked. Okay, so what's the problem, right? So let's continue on here. But prosecutors have argued that Brooks was asleep at the time he was stabbed and not in immediate danger to Lewis. So she's going to attack him when he's awake because he can fight her back? Okay, guys, I got to tell you, that is some messed up stuff. Iowa is not a good state for victims of sexual assault. It doesn't seem to be. And here we go. Iowa is not among the dozens of states that have a so-called safe harbor law that gives trafficking victims at least some level of criminal immunity. So why don't all 50 states have this protection? I mean, they should. There's no excuse for that. The Supreme Court needs to make that happen. Lewis, who earned her GED while being held in juvenile detention, acknowledged in a statement prior to her sentencing that she struggled with the structure of her detention, including, quote, why I was treated like a fragile glass or wasn't allowed to communicate with her friends or family. My spirit has been burned, but still glows through the flames, she read from a statement she had prepared. Hear me roar, see me glow, and watch me grow. I am a survivor, she added. Well, I gotta tell you, she has the best outlook. I don't know if I could maintain all that. She's a strong woman. The Associated Press does not typically name victims of sexual assault, but Lewis agreed to have her name used previously in stories about her case. Prosecutors took issue with Lewis calling herself a victim in the case and said she failed to take responsibility for stabbing Brooks and, quote, leaving his kids without a father. Oh! Okay, guys. So, he attacks her multiple times. Not only is she trafficked and sexually assaulted, but she's 15, 16 years old. That's statutory right there. And then she's trafficked and attacked. So, you left his kids without a daddy. Oh, maybe your daddy should not be attacking young women and trafficking people. Come on, guys. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think of that? It outrages me. The judge peppered Lewis with repeated requests to explain what poor choices she made that led up to Brooks' stabbing and expressed concern that she sometimes did not want to follow rules set for her in juvenile lockup. What? Okay, I don't know about the juvenile lockup situation, but she made poor choices, and that because this guy continually assaulted her, and she was involved in trafficking because these people made her do this stuff. She was 15 and 16 years old. And she also, it sounds like she didn't have a great life to begin with. I mean, obviously no one wants to protect this girl. I don't know. The next 5 years of your life will be full of rules you disagree with. I'm sure of it, Porter said. He later added, this is a second chance that you've asked for. You don't get a third. Wow, thanks, Judge. Carl Schilling with the Iowa Organization for Victim Assistance set a bill to create a safe harbor law for trafficking victims past the Iowa House earlier this year, but stalled in the Senate under concerns from law enforcement groups that it was too broad. There was a working group established to iron out the issue, Schilling said. Hopefully it will be taken up again next year. Iowa does have an affirmative defense law that gives some leeway to victims of crime if the victim committed the violation under compulsion by another's threat of serious injury, provided that the defendant reasonably believed that such injury was imminent. Prosecutors argued Tuesday that Lewis waived that affirmative defense when she pleaded guilty to manslaughter and willful injury. So I suppose she should not have pled guilty at all. I don't know if she just did that to get it over with, or what the situation is with that. I don't know. Kind of makes me wonder if she did that out of duress or what have you. But you kind of wonder about her defense team on this one. Because I think she should have just, held her ground and fought it. But again, I don't know what her state of mind was on that one. But it outrages me completely, this entire situation. On the good side of things, she's only getting 5 years of probation, so I guess she's just going to be at home, or reasonable. She's only allowed to maybe go to work or what have you. But that particular restitution, it bothers me more than anything else. But there is information on that I did find, so let me pull that up. So here's some good news as far as this victim here. It looks like, according to the Des Moines Register, there's also a few other updates on other news sites that are reporting this. Piper Lewis' GoFundMe soars past $150,000 she must pay estate of accused heiress she killed. So there was a GoFundMe set up, and it looks like they're taking care of her restitution fine. Of course, she shouldn't have one in the first place, but hundreds of thousands of dollars are pouring into a fundraising site for a human trafficking victim convicted of killing the man she said repeatedly arred her. A GoFundMe fundraiser created to support 17-year-old Piper Lewis had raised more than $240,000 from 5,500 donations as of Wednesday afternoon. So she's exceeded that amount that she needs to pay. Lewis pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and willful injury for stabbing to death Zachary Brooks, 37, who she said arred her multiple times in 2020 when she was 15. So, and this, of course, is repeating the other information that we just read. Let's see. Okay, Leland Shipper, who taught freshman math to Lewis at Des Moines Lincoln High School, organized the fundraiser in part to help cover the restitution she legally owes Brooks' estate. Wow, what an amazing teacher. But Lewis's attorneys say they must determine whether Iowa law would allow the donated money to be used to pay the $150,000 in court-ordered restitution. Are you kidding? Okay, so she's 17 years old. She was living on the streets practically while she was living with her abusive adopted mother. She left her abusive adopted mother. She went to live in this hallway in this apartment, and then she was invited in by this so-called nice man, and she ended up being continually arred, sexually assaulted, and she was trafficked. So do we think that she's going to be able to get some kind of a job and pay off this amount of money? Which I completely disagree she should have to pay at all. But now that these people who put this money out to help this young woman, so she doesn't have to try to restart her life with some crazy restitution sitting, on her. And now they're saying, oh, you might not be able to take that money and pay off this fine from the court. The vast majority of donations came in increments of less than $50. Almost every donor offered words of encouragement or outrage over the teen's prosecution, and sometimes both. Oh, I'm sure they did. I completely agree with them. An Iowa law enacted in 1997 requires people convicted of homicides to pay $150,000 in compensation. By mid-morning Wednesday, the fundraiser already had surpassed that amount. I think that Iowa law needs some serious revamping because, first of all, they're not protecting her as a sexual assault victim. And second of all, they're wanting her to pay him this money, this family, his estate, this money after he attacked her all this time. I don't know. I'm continually outraged, and I don't know what else to say. Shipper attended both days of the sentencing hearing. So this was a teacher who started the GoFundMe. He felt Porter ruled fairly, giving compassionate justice and using the system for what it should be designed for. But he was shocked Lewis still faced a restitution bill of $150,000. Shipper created a GoFundMe fundraiser to help Lewis in November after the Des Moines Register publicized her story. As recently as last week, it only had about $4,000 in donations. After Porter ruled Lewis had to pay restitution, Shipper reworked and republicized the GoFundMe site to capitalize on national media attention on the case. As I watch some of the people coming in from outside of our state, I think that people are in shock that Iowa has this law the way we do regarding the $150,000, Shipper said. This is a clear example of where it's completely unjust. 100% agree. On Wednesday morning, the fundraiser was raising so much money that Shipper increased its goal to $200,000. As the fundraiser passed the $130,000 mark, Shipper felt overwhelmed by the support for Lewis. Piper's case is so obvious to people why this law is flawed, but she is not unique in this law being problematically applied, Shipper said. It's beautiful and it's amazing. Lewis's attorneys will discuss with her if they will appeal the order to pay $150,000. I sure hope they are going to appeal. Matthew Sheely argued to Porter that Brooks was more than 51% responsible for his own death, and therefore Lewis should not have to pay his estate anything. I know that this is going to outrage a number of people, Sheely said of the decision. There are other options, legal avenues that might be available to Piper, which will be explored. Porter based his decision on a 2017 Iowa Supreme Court case that found a 15-year-old who pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and had to pay the $150,000 required by Iowa law, and that it is not unconstitutional when applied to juvenile homicide offenders. The court is cognizant that you and your supporters will be frustrated with the imposition of the $150,000 in restitution to Mr. Brooks' estate, Porter told Lewis Tuesday. This court is presented with no other option, other than which is dictated by the law of this state. Well, I think that the law of the state needs to change. Not everything is as clear-cut as another case, so I think it should be done on a case-by-case basis. And I think that that law needs to be disbanded or changed in some way. Fundraising is an option being considered to help Lewis pay the sum, Sheely said. But her lawyers want to make sure that any funds she may take to pay Brooks' estate will not violate the law. I think that the restitution obligation that she has to deal with now is probably the least of her concerns, Sheely after Lewis was sentenced. I'm pretty sure she's going to be focused on doing what she needs to do to take care of herself. Well, I really do hope she takes care of herself, and I hope that she's getting some counseling and that sort of thing, because obviously she's probably got a lot of trauma from the way she was treated. Shipper had contact with Lewis and her legal team late last year. Over the past 2 days, he has been in contact with her lawyers regarding the fundraiser. If Lewis cannot use the money to pay off her restitution, she may be able to use it to pay for college or other expenses, Shipper said. They are excited about this as a path for Piper not to have to pay this debt, Shipper said. Okay, so I suppose if she doesn't get to use it for the restitution, at least it will help hopefully her future. But I don't know. This whole thing, it's frustrating. And obviously, looking at the amount that the GoFundMe has raised for this young lady, obviously many other people are have the same thoughts, and it's, I don't know. I mean, it makes me think that there's got to be other states. If they're saying only 12 states have a protection for sexual assault victims in this way, so man, it makes you wonder. What other laws could be held against you when you're trying to protect yourself if you're being attacked in some possible way. But, definitely I'm hoping that they will be able to help this young lady out, and hopefully she can get a restart in life. The most thing I do hope is that she's able to come out of this stronger and make a future better for herself. Okay, well, that's going to be it for today, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please do let me know what you think in the comments about this case. And please remember to hit the thumbs up, that like button on your way out, and hit the subscription button if you haven't already so you can be notified whenever I post a new video. All right, you guys, have a great one, and stay safe.